Welcome to InterPartyConflict, the podcast where we answer your questions so you can have the best tabletop gaming experience possible. My name is Gabe.
My name is Jeff.
And we're going to answer your questions today, but first, I have a question. Jeff.
Yeah?
How are you doing today?
I'm doing pretty good. A friend of mine had a birthday party over Discord.
Okay.
And so that I think that's the first time I've done a gathering that large on a Discord like voice chat.
Sure.
And it was pretty fun. We were like streaming movie, like we would have several channels. They had like several channels set up. One of them, there was like a movie streaming in one of them, and then another one was just like a general chatting area. And then like it was set up kind of like rooms of a house, like you're at somebody's house for a party.
Mm-hmm.
And so the idea is like, okay, people just chatting in this room, people watching a movie in this room. There was the room for the people who are just there for the cats, for the animals. And so they had like a video feed of their cats like sitting on their bed or whatever. And so it was just like, you can go into that room and look at the cats and like, whatever. And then there was the hallway to the bathroom, which had a 2-person limit. So the idea is it's like it's like, when if you're at a house, somebody's party, and you go down, like, oh yeah, the bathroom's down the hall on the right, and then you go there and somebody's in the bathroom, so you gotta sit there in the hall and just kind of wait for the bathroom, and then somebody else comes up, it's like, is this the bathroom? Like, yeah, somebody's in there right now. And then you might like strike up a conversation waiting to go to the bathroom.
So I'm sorry, this was over Discord?
This was on Discord, yeah. So this is just like a simulated, party environment through Discord, and it was fun.
Yeah, that's interesting. It's actually kind of coincidental. Today, the day we were recording this, is actually Lisa's birthday, my wife's birthday.
Happy birthday, Lisa.
We didn't do a Discord party where you can run into people in the hallway waiting for the bathroom.
Right.
But we did. So there's a Netflix reality show called The Circle.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know anything about it?
No.
It's kind of like, think of Survivor I guess I've never seen Survivor, so I don't actually know if this is accurate, but think of if Survivor was everybody was on social media rather than meeting in person.
Okay.
So you had no guarantee that the people you were talking to were actually who they say they were.
Mm.
So like these people are in like an apartment building, each in different rooms, and then they're just communicating through this Facebook-esque app.
Yeah.
And so they have to, get to know each other. They have to do little challenges, and then they have to vote each other off based entirely on how they present themselves to each other. Gotcha. But the first season came out at the beginning of quarantine. The second season, just the first few episodes of it just came out. So we had a little, we watched it with some friends. We were talking on Discord, but the party itself wasn't on. It was just on text chat. So we were watching it and then, typing in our thoughts as we went along.
Yeah, that's pretty neat.
So you and I were talking before we started recording that my work is very much overworking us. I am exhausted.
Yeah.
Something's got to change about this freaking job. I know a couple months ago I was talking about it doesn't look like the schedule is going to interfere with the podcast at all. It'll be fine, blah, blah, blah. But Jeff, I'm exhausted.
Yeah.
I don't need the money. I'd rather have the time off. It's
right,
freaking awful. So work has been very rough. However, I teased last week that we have an announcement today. I do have an announcement that I am very excited about.
Crap, I can't remember what it is.
So, 2.5 years ago, there was a point where I had a couple weeks off work, and I thought to myself, I'm not busy enough. Let me start several more podcasts.
Yeah.
In addition to, because we've got this, and I've also got the Arcade Memories podcast, which I stopped making episodes for a long time ago, but was a thing I was still working on at the time. One of the projects that came out of that break was our At the Gaming Table, our actual play that we recorded again, 2.5 years ago, but it came out during quarantine last year.
Mm-hmm.
The other one that came to fruition, because there was another project that you and I were going to do, we didn't even start. But
right,
our good friend Steve and I have recorded a podcast covering the entirety of the 1995 action thriller TV show Nowhere Man. The podcast is called Nowhere Men, The Nowhere Man Project by Scriptbusters. Is the full official title. Whatever, don't worry about it. So, I didn't want to put out any episodes of this until we were completely done because I didn't want there to be huge gaps between the episodes. And so, we finished recording it in either December or January, just this past December or January. And I've finally gotten everything edited and it is ready to go out. So, the day this episode launches, the first episode of Nowhere Men, The Nowhere Man Project by Scriptbusters will be out. I'll put the link in the show notes unless something has gone wrong. The address is going to be anchor.fm/nowheremen. So go check that out. It's, it'll hopefully be on iTunes and such in the near future. So if anyone wants to watch this, it's a 25 episode TV show. We talked about it in 21 episodes of the podcast. The TV show's all on YouTube. You can go watch it right now if you want to. It's just called Nowhere Man. Episode 1 is called Absolute Zero. So type in Nowhere Man Absolute Zero into YouTube. And then we've got our podcast where we talk about each episode for several hours. It's a deep, deep dive into this show. Only listen to it if you really enjoy listening to my voice and hopefully Steve's voice too. It's entertaining. I guarantee that we stay on topic. We talk about some seriously deep stuff, some interesting stuff, but it is very, very long. You have to know that going in. It might not be for everybody, but we had a lot of fun making it. I've listened to every episode several times by now, and it was a lot of fun for me to listen to at least. Hopefully you all feel the same way. So please check that out. Once again, it is Nowhere Men, The Nowhere Man Project. The by Scriptbusters part probably won't be in the title, but it's in there somewhere. So check that out. It's been 2.5 years in the making. A lot of time and effort went into making this, so please check it out.
I mean, I've been hearing about this for a long time. I'm very excited for it. And What is Scriptbusters? If you guys come up with like a name for yourselves? Is that what's going on?
Sort of. So like, that's the thing. We didn't even come up with a title we didn't settle on a title for several episodes. And halfway through the season, we decided to come up with some sort of like an umbrella term for us, I guess, so that if we want to do this sort of an approach with more things later, we could come out with more podcasts and they would be from Scriptbusters.
Gotcha. I mean, it's a good name. Like I think
it is too.
Like, I think that's great.
Yeah. So go check that out. Nowhere Men, The Nowhere Man Project. It's a lot of fun. Listen to it, follow along with the TV show if you want to. Yeah.
If anything, you and Steve can start up some really interesting conversations. So it's definitely worth listening to.
All right. Well, you want to go ahead and get into this episode, Jeff?
Yeah, let's do that.
Cool. All right, Jeff, I want you to imagine that you're walking along one day and there's a bridge and you come up to the bridge.
Okay.
And you hear a voice from below.
Oh.
And it says, "Psst, hey, you."
Oh.
You. Come here.
Like crouched down. I'm gonna like crouch down, trying to like look through the boards in the bridge, and I'm like, yeah, who's there?
You see something. You see an eye peering out through like a little knot in the wood, and he says, "Hey, I've got some treasure here for you. Why don't you come down and get it?"
I'm like, oh, treasure! I skip my way to the other side of the bridge and go down around, try to climb down the steep hill to get below the bridge.
Okay. Give me an acrobatics check.
Okay.
See if you can keep your balance.
Or like how well I skip. God, this die, Gabe, is
it keep rolling natural 20s?
It's pretty good. Well, it's not. I got a 19. It's still, but like it rolls real well.
Yeah. So you skip down. You get down there like agile like a cat. And when you get down there, you see what you're pretty sure is a troll. It's a very large, grayish skinned individual. He's got long claws and dirty, broken teeth, and he smells really bad. And he says, "Oh, you actually came down. Well, here you go." And he sort of gestures, and there's a big pile of gold.
I was like,
and he says, "Yeah, I I found this. I figured I would give it away, but nobody seems to want to come down and take it.
Oh, well, where did you find it, Mr. Troll?
Oh, funny that you ask. I found it in the Dragon's Hoard. So you got a bunch of treasure. Oh, congratulations, thanks. Jeff. Wow. You solved the puzzle.
It was a trust puzzle.
It was a trust puzzle. So today's magic item was submitted by Reliable, RLYEHABLE, via email. And this is the Troll Blood Elixir.
Oh.
This is a magic potion, and it is uncommon. Troll Blood Elixir, a black liquid with green swirls, is concocted from the blood of a troll and several other secret ingredients. Its smell has been compared to rotted meat. As an action, a creature may drink a dose of the elixir or administer it to another creature. The creature that drinks it must make a DC 12 Constitution saving throw. On a successful save, the drinker regains 10 hit points up to their hit point maximum. In addition, any limbs severed from the character can be reattached simply by holding the two ends of the severed limb together. This takes an action either by the character or an ally. This saving throw is repeated at the beginning of each of the drinker's turns until it either fails the save or 1 minute passes. If a 20 is rolled on the die when making the save, the damage is still healed, but the healed flesh looks like troll skin. On a failed save, the drinker adds 1 level of exhaustion, and that dose of elixir is neutralized, having no further effect, good or ill. Each vial holds 3 doses. If more than 1 dose of the elixir is drunk within 24 hours, these saves are made with disadvantage. If a character takes 2 doses of the elixir within 1 hour of each other, the character will automatically fail the save and gain 2 levels of exhaustion. Yeah. The elixir has no effect on the dead, constructs, or undead, and it cannot regenerate damage from acid or fire.
Sure.
So yeah, it's a potion that for, up to a minute kind of makes you behave like a troll.
Yeah.
I mean, it gives the regeneration of a troll. It doesn't make you behave like it.
Right.
Next time you grab someone, you instinctively just tear them open.
Right, yeah. This is really cool. It's a powerful healing potion with a really cool theming.
Sure.
I like that the healed damaged flesh looks like troll skin. I like that kind of stuff. That's really cool.
Yeah, I like how it is powerful. It's definitely potentially very powerful. Could heal up to 100 hit points.
Mm-hmm.
However, you have to make a save every round in order to get 10. So, statistically speaking, most characters are likely to fail that long before it gets to 10 rounds.
Right, yeah. Yeah, healing potion with a where you have to make saves to keep it working.
Yeah, and then whenever you do fail, you take a level of exhaustion. So that's a big deal.
Right, yeah, because it's like your body is like overexerting itself trying to regenerate or something.
So yeah, it's powerful, but it definitely has its drawbacks, and it has its quirks to how it works.
Yeah, side effects and yeah.
Yeah.
And you can't overuse it, yeah.
Yeah, I also really like how you can't regenerate from acid or fire.
Right. Yep.
It's a neat detail. So, yeah, I don't really have much else to say about this. But
no, it's a solid item for sure.
Yeah, but then drinking a potion that smells like rotten meat.
Oh yeah, well,
yeah, I'm good. I'll deal with the severed hand. Maybe sure. I'll get a cool hook instead.
You don't like aged beef?
I mean,
like dry aged?
Dry aged beef.
Sure.
Not moist aged beef.
Oh.
All right. I think that'll do it for the Dragon's Hoard today. Thank you very much, Reliable, for sending that in. Once again, that was the Troll Blood Elixir. Jeff, if anybody else wanted to submit magic items for the Dragon's Hoard, or if they wanted to submit questions for us to discuss, or stories for the funeral pyre or retirement village or whatever we're doing with our last segment, how would they get those to us?
They could send us an email at interpartyconflict@gmail.com or join us on our Interparty Discord at bit.ly/interpartydiscord.
All right. And before we go any further, we have a giveaway to give away today. As we have been, we're giving away a copy of 3 supplements from Crit Academy, the Warmind, the Skybreaker, and the Werecat, as well as apparently 3 other things that Justin is sending out as well.
Right, he's been sneaking those in there.
He has been sneaking those in there, so good on him, I guess. So, yeah, who is our winner of these great supplements today, Jeff?
Today's winner is Matt V.
Whoa, winner. Gobble, gobble, gobble. Yes, congratulations, Matt V. You should be getting that in your email pretty soon. Be sure to leave reviews for Crit Academy and let them know how they did. You know, the more reviews they get, the more attention they get, and of course, the more they can focus on making things better in the future. Mm-hmm. So please, please, please leave those reviews on there. And if you haven't gotten your copies in the next week or so, let me know. So yeah. Big thank you to Crit Academy for making this happen. Congratulations, Matt V. Jeff, if anybody else wanted to be like Matt V and they wanted to win a free copy of these great supplements, how would they do so?
They would send us an email at interpartyconflict@gmail.com with Crit 3 in the subject line.
Yes. Theoretically, I can accept emails with Crit 6 or whatever you want to put in there, but whatever. You know what you're doing.
Right.
And next up, I want to thank all of our wonderful patrons. Patreon is an online platform. You can pledge to donate a certain amount of money per month to the creator of your choice. If you go to ours at patreon.com/InterPartyConflict, we have a few different tiers with various rewards on those. On the lowest tier, we've got we got a ton of outtakes. We've got fantasy fiction that I've written. On the next tier up, we've got a monthly bonus podcast, InterPatron-Conflict. We actually need to get on that because the month is more than half over. We should probably record this month's episode.
Oh, sure.
Then on the top tier, we have a monthly Roll20 game. That's going to be happening, I think, before this episode goes out. So thanks, everybody who showed up, I guess. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I'm actually really excited about this session coming up. I have some really fun stuff planned. So
cool.
So if you want to help out the show and get some cool stuff in return, go to patreon.com/interpartyconflict. You can help out the show and get some cool stuff. So big, huge thank you to everybody who has donated to us. We understand things are tough. Don't worry about us. If your money's tight, take care of yourself first. If you got some money left over, think about sending it our way. Mm-hmm. And then one more thing, just check out the other podcasts on the Crit Nation Fellowship, Crit Academy at critacademy.com. Justin, Ian, and Brandon create new and reusable content for players and DMs alike. Also check out the other podcasts. Check out D&D Character Lab, where they made characters every week and pitted them against each other. Check out Brute Force and Ignorance. They're an actual play podcast. And check out the Kind GM podcast, where they give out DM-centric advice. So check all them out. We got some great stuff on here. Enough of all that. Let's get into some questions, Jeff.
All right. Our first question comes from RobotFaceX on Reddit, and they ask, are trolls magical creatures? Why or why not?
Yeah. So it's not really a secret that every now and then some of our questions are the result of discussions I've had, discussions I've had on the internet.
Right.
And in particular, this was one that came up, and I felt fairly strongly about one answer. RobotFaceX felt strongly about the other answer, as well as some other things. And so I decided, hey, let's make some content out of it. So yeah, so this question is, are trolls magical creatures? So I guess a disclaimer, this isn't necessarily going to be an advice-giving episode. I'd like to think that some advice can be gotten from most of our episodes, but in this particular case, I've made like a persuasive argument for what I believe the answer to this question to be.
This falls into like the Gabe rants category of episodes, maybe?
It does. However, this time I have a lot of evidence to back myself up. Okay. It's not just going to be me complaining into the... I mean, it will be me complaining into the mic for a while, but, you know. If you disagree, no worries. I would love to hear your reasoning for why. Please send it in, email us, whatever you want to do. Mm-hmm. Or if you don't want to send it in, just, appreciate that we can all have our own opinions. My opinion isn't inherently more or less valid than anybody else's. However, I do just want to show why I came to the opinion that I have, and maybe give an insight that some of you out there might not already have. So to start us off, I guess. Well, actually, let me give the context for this. It's not just that RobotFaceX didn't just post on the internet. Hey, is a troll a magic creature? The context was they posted a meme on Reddit that was it was a 2-panel meme. The first was like, think of a small person that is very proud of their achievement, and then a larger person who is proud of them despite having been much more accomplished themselves. So the first picture, the small person proud of their accomplishment, is an elf, and it says elves living for several hundred years. And then the next panel is the other person who has much more accomplishments, and then the caption says that it is a troll being effectively immortal despite not being a magical creature.
Right.
And this just struck me as a very odd comparison, because I mean my response was, since when are trolls not magical creatures? I mean, they, number one, if they are effectively immortal, we'll get to that in a minute. If they are effectively mortal, I think that's pretty good reason to assume they are magical. And then it's just a very odd comparison to make, which is why I responded at all, I guess. If it hadn't been for that, I wouldn't have even got into it. But
right. So yeah, looking at this meme, and then this is taken from like a webcomic. It's Sir Grapho.
Is that? I've seen that format used plenty of times, but I've never actually looked into it.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure this is a Sir Grapho webcomic. They use a lot of I don't know if Sir Grapho. I'm assuming gender on Sir Grapho. I apologize, but I always just thought it was a male. But Sir Grapho, like a lot of, I see a lot of Sir Grapho stuff used for memes and things. So like when I saw this, I was like, you could just leave the non-magical part out, and it's effectively the same meme, just without that weird, like, why would you add that, and why do you think that? Like, it is sort of like, why add this extra detail?
Yeah. And if Robot Face X had responded with, I don't know, they just don't seem magical to me.
Right.
End of discussion. No problem. I would not be making an episode about it right now.
Which I read the discussion, and at some point they do say something along that lines, but then they add so much other crap.
Yeah.
They're like, I just don't think it's this, and then it's because of this and this and this, and I was like, well, you can think what you want, but the things that you listed as examples don't really help your case.
Sure. And I'll say a large amount of this is going to be opinion based. It's going to be how you personally define. The first big important thing is, what is a magical creature? I have some criteria that I, in my mind, consider to be the definition of what a magical creature is. Yours might be different, and that's fine. I just would hope that if you are going to very aggressively disagree with me, that you have a criteria that you are basing that off of. You know what I mean? So I guess let's start this off. Jeff, what would you consider to be a magical creature? And I don't expect you necessarily to have as detailed of a criteria as I do, but just off the top of your head, do you have a criteria for what is a magical creature?
I guess it depends in what context, like specifically in D&D or just in general.
Yeah, that's a good question. I would say in D&D.
Specifically in D&D, I would say, well, it's not going to be all things that are outside of the beast type, but it would definitely, I feel like, because I don't know about 5th edition, but in earlier editions, in 3rd edition and 3.5, there were, like, you had, like, the different creature types, and I think there was, like, animal, and then there was, I think beast was a separate thing, maybe? And then there was magical beasts. Yeah,
so in 3rd edition, before 3.5, and I did look into a lot of this because some of this does play into my argument because of how 5th edition has changed things a bit. There was animals, there were beasts, and then there were magical beasts. And then when 3.5 came around, they got rid of beasts because they said it's kind of redundant. Right. All beasts could either just be animals or magical beasts.
Right, yeah. So I feel like that plays into it, but that's not. I wouldn't say that's like a hard and fast thing, because I'm sure there might be something, because I know in 5th edition it's just beast now. I think there's beast, and then there's also a lot of things that were magical beasts are now monstrosities. Monstrosity, yeah. So, but I mean, beast still fills out like anywhere from an animal to a magical beast, because I think that there's like frost spiders or something falling into falls into beasts, or like winter wolves that have like magical abilities and stuff. Like they're not just a wolf, they're a wolf with like a frost breath weapon or something.
Yeah.
And I think those are still under the beast tag. So that's not hard and fast. So I mean, like, I feel like I don't know an easy enough, a short enough answer to that question. Like, what would I consider a magical beast? I think anything with any sort of like, I was gonna say extraordinary ability, but like that's also a term that's used in at least 3.5.
Yeah, and don't worry, I'll be addressing that too. Do you mind if I give you the criteria I have, and then you can say whether if you disagree with any of them, you could say so.
Right. Well, it's also like, do you consider elves a magical creature? Are dwarves a magical creature? Is anything with dark vision a magical creature?
This was part of my initial thought process of, well, wait a minute, why aren't they magical creatures?
Right.
My first response was, are elves, in my head, sorry, my first response in my head was, are elves magical creatures? Then I realized, well, in 5th edition, they are explicitly part fae.
Sure.
Which full disclosure, I didn't look up fae. I just assumed that somewhere in the description of what fae are, it explicitly says that they are all magical. I'm not even calling that into question. I would believe that. If someone had evidence to the contrary, awesome. But I'll just assume that yes, elves count as fae, and yes, elves count as magical because they are fae.
Sure.
Dwarves, on the other hand, though, I think you'd be hard-pressed to find anyone that does not consider dwarves to be, in some way, magical creatures. But also, in the context of this meme, dwarves could then be in the same spot as the trolls. Dwarves also are incredibly long-lived, despite being, if they aren't magical creatures, dwarves could then also fit in there because dwarves are not part fae. So I could definitely see an argument that dwarves aren't magical creatures. So, yeah, there's definitely some muddying of the terminology in there.
Yeah, I just I think if it doesn't exist in the real world, it is at least in some part magical, because it's fictional. It's based on fantasy. Sure.
And hey, I recently, when we were doing our subclasses episode with Crit Academy, I was watching a bunch of like interviews with Jeremy Crawford, and one of them, it just auto played into one where Jeremy Crawford himself, somebody asked the question like, how do dragons fly in D&D? Because, anyone who will argue about the quote unquote realism of D&D will point out that a creature the size of a dragon can't fly. And even Jeremy Crawford says, well, it is assumed that there is magic involved for something like that. Even though dragons, again, most people would consider dragons to be magical creatures, it can be assumed that any creature the size of a dragon, any creature that flies that is the size of a dragon, whether it is explicitly called out as magical or not, you could be forgiven for calling it a magical creature due to the fact that it is doing something that is clearly impossible by quote unquote realistic physics.
Right.
The blanket excuse for why it doesn't have to conform to quote unquote realism is because magic.
Sure.
Even if the creature itself is not magic, somehow magic in the world was involved in that creature growing to be so large and still being able to fly. So I've got examples for those as we'll go on.
Okay.
So here's my criteria. When I try to define what is a magical creature, I came up with 5 things.
Okay.
And if a creature whose race/kind, so like, let's say a troll is part of there are other trolls.
Right.
I'm not talking about a specific troll, because let's say there's like a troll that, I don't know, learned magic or something through taking the wizard class or whatever. I don't know. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about specifically like they're a generic member of that race or kind. A magical creature is any creature whose race or kind fulfills one or more of the following criteria. Number 1, innately cast spells. Kind of a no-brainer.
Sure.
If they innately cast spells, for example, like hags, I'm pretty sure, just automatically have magic. A lot of demons automatically have magical abilities that they can use.
Yeah.
So innately casting spells.
So I mean, like anything that has the sorcerer class is a magical creature?
Actually, no. Hold on. That's why I specified their race or kind.
Sure. Okay.
An individual that is a sorcerer is one thing, but that's not part of this criteria.
Right. And I guess it's not necessarily all sorcerers, but I mean, like, it's like they get it through their blood. Like, the idea is that they get it through their bloodline, like somewhere down their bloodline or up their bloodline or whatever, there was a dragon. And so now they have dragon spells, you know?
Sure. So yeah. Number 1, innately cast spells. Number 2, has an innate trait or feature that is well above or beyond real world ability. And I'm specifying well above. Right. That is, of course, up to interpretation, but one of the arguments that this individual was using is that there are real world creatures that regenerate limbs. Lizards can regrow their tails. Starfish, when you break off one of their limbs, will regrow that limb.
Yep.
Okay, they don't do it in an hour. And the part that's been broken off doesn't move of its own accord and cannot be reattached as if they are one creature. It's not how that works. What I would consider a troll's regeneration, and I will go more in detail on a troll's regeneration in a minute, but I would argue that a troll's regeneration is well above and beyond any kind of real world ability, any kind of real world regeneration. So, innately casting spells, has an innate trait or feature that goes well above real world ability. Number 3, and maybe this will be a controversial one, I don't know, was created by magical means. There are quite a few creatures in, Forgotten Realms, in the various histories of these creatures. There are a lot of creatures that are rumored or maybe in some cases explicitly said to be the result of magical experimentation.
Right.
This one is a little bit hard. I could have sworn for a moment when I was thinking about, like, okay, why do I think a troll is a magical creature? I could have sworn I had heard at least some story somewhere that trolls were created by magic. Yeah, I don't know where I read that. Maybe I imagined it. I couldn't find anything that explicitly said that, aside from some things I'll get to later.
That does sound familiar, but it could be like a specific edition or a specific campaign setting might have said that.
Sure. Maybe. Yeah, maybe. So that's, being created by magical means, I would argue makes it a magical creature if it would not have existed otherwise. I'll even give an example, the owl bear.
Right.
The owl bear, I'm sorry, ain't nothing magical about the owl bear, but in 3.5, it was classified as a magical beast because, according to its description, it was the result of magical experimentation. Mm-hmm. There's no other reason to consider it a magical beast except for that. So I had to consider that a criteria.
Yeah, it was made through the combination of two different animals through magic.
Two different non-magical animals.
Right, yeah, like there was like a wizard and you took like a ferret and like a pigeon or something and it was just slapping them together.
Is that a real thing?
No, I was just
okay. Oh, I get it. Sorry, Jeff. I'm so worked up. It's so warm in here.
Sorry.
Missed the obvious. No, it's fine. It's pretty good. So the next criteria is it is specifically referred to as being magical in the text. Like the owl bear, like a few examples I'll give a little bit later. Some of them, I'm sorry, but there is nothing magical about that except for the fact that that says in the text, this magical creature, or the creature is classified as a magical beast.
Right.
So when that happens, I gotta consider it a magical creature. What else am I going to do? And then the final criteria is just, and this is one I wasn't 100% positive. I wasn't really confident with, but I thought I'd bring it up and maybe you could agree or disagree. And the fifth one is the creature is a direct relative of a creature whose race or kind meets one of the above criteria. So again, I'm not gonna like fight to the death for this one, but if there is a creature that it is a cousin of a creature with an innate magical ability, or a cousin or like a distant relative of a creature that is specifically referred to as being magical, in that case, I could see the argument for it. I'm not sure whether I would immediately assume it or not, but if someone was like, no, it's magical because it's a cousin of this other creature, I would be like, okay, fair enough.
Yeah. Because I'm kind of trying to think of drakes, and I can't remember if drakes have like an official stat block or something in 5th edition. I feel like they are at least like some drakes in 3rd edition, and I don't remember if they had like breath weapons or spells or anything.
Yeah. See, breath weapons I feel like in some creatures that's an indicator. If it's like fire or something, that just feels like it should be considered a magical ability. But what if it's like acid? There's real world creatures that spit acid. If you scale that creature up to be 10 feet tall, you know.
Something can shoot like, real life animals like shoot acid or like spit acid or whatever. But like, one, making it 10 feet tall alone is its own, like that doesn't quite work in real life. And like the amount of acid that they spit to be like a line of damage, and then they can do it every like 2d6 rounds or whatever.
Sure.
Like that goes in your I think it was your second criteria or whatever, that it's
above or beyond
what a normal thing can do. So yeah, like I think breath weapons just alone can be like, oh yeah, it's magical. It's a magical creature, but it's not like it's more just I feel like there is a difference between mechanically magical and like lore magical.
Sure.
Because like most things in D&D are there's just magic. There's magic everywhere, and everything is magical. If it's not like specifically mundane, it's magical in some way because it's D&D, because it's in a fantasy world. Like I think magical is the norm, and mundane is what you have to specify. Like, oh yeah, this is just a sword. This is not a magic sword. This is just a sword.
Yeah, like okay, I've said in previous episodes that in regards to what kind of a game D&D is, I've used the phrase like there's a lot of things you can say D&D is. There's not a lot of things you can say D&D isn't.
Right.
And similarly, in D&D, there's a lot of things that you can say with pretty good confidence are magic. There's not a lot of things that you can say specifically aren't magic. And so for someone to be so aggressively confident that no, it is not magic, it's not even like, again, if it was like, I don't consider it to be magic. Mm-hmm. Okay. End of discussion. No further discussion needed. But to be like, no, it's not magic. It's a very odd approach to take.
Yeah. Yeah.
So again, just the quick 5 criteria: innately cast spells, has an innate trait or feature that is well above or beyond real world ability, was created by magical means, is specifically referred to as being magical in the text, or again, this one is arguable, is a direct relative of a creature whose race or kind meets one of the above criteria.
Mm.
So, I guess the first question is what is a magical creature? Hopefully you can form your own opinions on what criteria you personally would use to define a magical creature. The second question is, what is a troll? So in D&D, a troll is a creature. It is of the giant type. It's not a giant. So there's like, there's hill giants, then stone giants, and fire giants, ice giants, cloud giants, storm giants, whatever. It is the same type of those, in the same way that like a dragon turtle is the same type as a red dragon, but that doesn't make a dragon turtle a full dragon.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. There's quite enough distance between those,
Right. So like in Volo's, for example, Volo's Guide to Monsters, it refers to, it does not cover anything other than true giants, really. It mentions trolls and ogres as being giant kin. And I think like Oni are included in that too. But aside from basically just a passing mention, like, oh, they're giant kin. Oh, they were created by Vaprak the Destroyer. Other than that, the entire thing, I read this entire thing all the way through once and then scanned through looking for specific things. It does not talk about trolls specifically, but other giant kin really don't come up in that at all. During the discussion with Robot Face X, there was another person who seemed to be having more of a more of a good faith discussion with me. And they actually specified that no. In Volos, it says that of all of the giants, only storm giants and cloud giants have magical ability. The rest don't. And so that actually made me go back and look through, like, did I miss something in here? And no, I think they might have misunderstood something that was in there. It specifies cloud giants and storm giants as being the most outwardly magical. But again, it's not talking about giantkin. It's just talking about true giants.
Right.
So whether, ogres or trolls are or aren't magical, Volos doesn't say.
Yeah, and according to 3rd edition Psionic Handbook,
boy, I didn't even think of that, Jeff.
Half giants are innately psionic, so
then the real question is, are trolls psionic creatures?
Are psionic creatures magical creatures? Does that count?
That depends on whether magic and psionics are the same. Oh boy, we're mixing all the episodes here. So trolls are giant creatures. As I described in the Dragon's Horde intro, they have rubbery skin, they have vicious claws, if they hit you twice, they'll tear you open. But their most known feature is their regeneration. So the way that regeneration works functions a little bit differently depending on the edition. In 5th edition, it's just that every round they gain back a certain number of hit points. Anytime they take damage from fire or acid, which is pretty consistent for trolls, asterisk, across all the editions, is fire and acid are always the things that that get through their regeneration. If they have taken damage from one of those sources, they do not have their regeneration the next round. And then if they die, if they are reduced to 0 hit points from a source that is not fire or acid, the next round they come back up with 10 hit points, with however many hit points they get from their regeneration.
Yeah.
But if the attack that drops them to 0 is fire or acid, then they stay dead.
Right.
And that's functioned differently, like I said, in every edition. In 4th edition, I think it was that, like, if they drop to 0 every round, they could spend an action to come back up from 0. But then similarly, you had to hit them with an attack that did one of those types of damage or whatever. In 3rd edition D&D, it was that all damage to them was counted as non-lethal damage, except for fire or acid. So the DM had to keep 2 different pools, or two different running tallies of how much damage they had taken.
Yeah,
one from fire and acid, one from non.
Yeah, it was rough.
Yeah, it's always really rough. And then another part of that is that they can, if they lose a limb, they can regrow it. In 5th edition, it's whenever they take a short rest, I believe, because it's in a sidebar in 5th edition, because 5th edition really kind of avoids the severing of limbs. In 3rd edition, it took like 3d6 minutes. I think in earlier editions, it was some other amount of minutes. But then if they touch the stump to where it was removed, or touch the limb from the stump, it immediately reattaches. And then in 5th edition, using that sidebar, like I said, there's like a little sidebar about, it's called like lethal limbs or something. I don't have I don't have that page open right now, but there's a sidebar in 5th edition that says that it's an optional rule, but if their limbs get detached, their limbs keep on attacking. You can cut off a troll's head. The body will keep on attacking you just without its scent ability. The head can't move, but if you get close to it, it'll bite you. If you cut off a limb, if you cut off like an arm, the arm has a really slow movement speed, but can still attack you. So going by the assumption that, there are real world creatures that can regenerate limbs, unless you are proposing that a troll is a colony rather than an individual organism, that's not a thing real things do. Right. There are not creatures that if you cut off their limb, it will keep on acting autonomously. Oh. A lizard's tail may still move after it's been removed, but it doesn't have a nervous system. It's just the tendons or whatever are just spasming.
Right, yeah.
A worm, there are stories of people, you cut a worm in half and it becomes 2 worms. I'm pretty sure that that's not actually true. It's that one side of it will regrow. But again, that's not like, within a few minutes. You don't touch the severed worm and it reattaches itself. So this is well above and beyond a real world creature. You can't cut off a creature's head and have the head keep attacking you and the body keep attacking you, and then put the head back on and have it be one creature. No real world creature acts that way.
Right.
Unless it is not one creature, but a colony like a coral. You can break off a piece of coral, the piece might grow its own thing, and then the rest might grow its own thing. Because that's many creatures all together.
Yeah, and I think that's a really cool idea, though. Like, I think that's
sure.
For like a campaign setting, like a, your own world building thing, like you could have trolls be like, yeah, like I kind of like that idea that they're not necessarily one thing. They're like just a bunch of things that have formed into a monster,
Sure.
That's pretty neat. But, I'd still put that under magical, though.
Yeah. And if you're going to do that, don't make them a giant type creature, make them an aberration or a monstrosity, because they are not a giant kin if they are actually a colony of tiny creatures.
Right. Yeah.
So
yeah, like I'd imagine like trolls have a bone structure. I'm pretty sure people can assume that.
Yeah.
Like I don't know if that is like specifically canon that they have a bone structure, like, but I can imagine that's sort of implied.
And in the 5th edition troll entry in the monster manual, one thing that Robot Face X was using to say that they're not magical creatures, they were saying that their regeneration isn't the result of magic or magical ability, but they were saying that it's the result of a mutation. So they're just like an evolutionary creature that just developed this this ability that, again, quote unquote, real creatures have. However, that's not correct in 5th edition, and I believe in some. I looked at several editions worth of trolls for this episode. It says that regeneration can cause mutations.
Yeah.
Not that it is the result of mutations.
Well,
in fact, sorry, one more quick thing about this. Mm-hmm. In 5th edition, the monster manual implies that trolls can develop magical powers if they eat something that is magical. So like if they eat a fey creature, the troll might develop fey magic powers.
That's
that
really
does
cool.
Not sound like a non-magical creature to me, a creature that can assimilate magic.
Right, yeah. Something that could just assimilate magic like that. It's like, so if the argument is, and I would say, like, regenerative abilities are made through can be made through evolution and mutation and stuff. The whole idea behind evolution is it's like gradual changes through like mechanisms such as mutation.
Sure.
Drive evolution. And so one of the evolutionary advantages that lizards have got is if something grabs their tail will fall off and they can just grow another tail later. Like that's cool. We can't do that.
Yeah.
Like if an alligator grabbed my arm and ripped my arm off, I couldn't go like, well, all right, I'll just get away and now it has my arm, but at the very, but I'm just going to grow an arm back, in a couple of years or whatever, however long it takes.
Yeah.
But like the regenerative ability of a troll that's going to regrow a limb in, how long does it take for a limb to regrow on a troll?
I think in 5th edition, it's a short rest.
It's a short rest.
So an hour.
An hour. Okay. You're regrowing an entire limb in an hour. It takes like months or like weeks or months for a tail to grow back on a lizard.
60 days. I just Googled it.
And it's a living thing. They have to be like that costs energy. They have to have like there's still like energy and calories and things you have to take into account. Like the troll isn't like eating like food super duper fast to make up for the fact that they're growing a limb. Like where are they? There's this conservation of energy and like where is this coming from? Where is it coming from? Where is that limb coming from? How are they just getting a limb? Like, they're burning calories? Are they like, how many calories can they store in their body to like be able to burn that many calories in order to regrow a limb?
Right.
Like cells don't divide just because they want to. Like, we have to like gather nutrients and things to grow our bodies. Like, it's not. The troll doing it it's magic. It's because it's a game. It's fiction.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't have a very succinct way of putting it, but the arguments that there could be a realistic version of an animal that regrows itself that quickly, it doesn't add up. Like right. It's not physically possible.
So I figured I would look, because I was trying to figure out, when I was trying to define for myself what is a magical creature, I was curious as to what were magical beasts in earlier editions. Mm-hmm. And so I went through the third, because again, after third edition, there hasn't really been like a magical beast category. They've been, the name has been slightly changed to include or exclude more things. And so it's harder to easily define what is or isn't magical. But when something is explicitly a magical beast, that's interesting to look at for purposes of this argument. So in third edition, let me just run through a few of the creatures that I saw. These are all explicitly magical beasts.
Okay.
Wargs. You know what a warg is?
Yeah.
It's a really smart wolf.
Yeah, it's a
wolf that's smart enough to talk.
Right, it's a big smart dog.
Yeah. So that's one. Ankegs. Ankegs are very big bugs.
Yeah.
That's it.
They're big bugs. They burrow. I think they spit acid, maybe?
Spit acid, yes.
Yep.
And sorry, one thing I forgot to mention earlier. Third edition had classifications for abilities. If an ability was emulating a spell. If an ability was emulating a spell, it was called a spell-like ability. And in the monster stat block, it would have a little SP indicating that was a spell-like ability. If it was an ability that was magical in nature, but not explicitly a spell, usually, or something of that sort, it would be called a supernatural ability. So yes. SU was a little descriptor. And then if it was not magical, it was an extraordinary ability. Like not magical, but still above and beyond what a normal person or creature should have. It was extraordinary. Now, in this case, regeneration was an extraordinary ability.
Yeah.
So when I first started doing research, I was like, oh shoot, maybe they're not magical creatures. But again, Ankegs, no supernatural abilities, all extraordinary. Every monster I'm going to mention here in this list have no spell-like or supernatural abilities. Every single one of their abilities are extraordinary. So, although extraordinary abilities like regeneration function in an anti-magic field, the fact that they are extraordinary as opposed to supernatural is not itself an indicator of whether the creature is magical or not. Because again, wargs ain't got nothing that ain't extraordinary. But they're still magical creatures. They're still magical beasts. So wargs, smart wolves, ankegs, big bugs, boulets, which are, not something you'd see in real life. It's not just a larger version of a real creature, but it's still all extraordinary abilities. It's just a burrowing thing that resembles a shark. Like it's just a big creature.
Yeah. So the land shark.
Yeah. Another one is the Guerralan, which is basically just a big four-armed gorilla. In fact, the description calls them savage magical cousins of the gorilla. But again, nothing in their stat block is beyond extraordinary. So if there is something that is magical about them, it is not dependent on them having supernatural or spell-like abilities. Grey Render is basically just a really big, I want to say non-magical monster, but I mean, obviously it's a magical beast. So it's just kind of a big, extraordinary monster.
Mm-hmm.
Griffin and Hippogriff. Both of those are magical beasts. There's nothing magical about them except the implication or assumption that they are magically created. I don't think either of those monsters did specifically say that they are, like a magical combination of two creatures, or if they're just their own things. But the owl bear, which is my next example, does. It does say that in their descriptions. So, again, there's nothing magical about them except that they were rumored to be created by magic. And then the final two examples that I have are giant eagle and giant owl.
Right.
They're just a big eagle and a big owl. That's it.
That's it. They're just real big.
Those are magical creatures. But the troll, whose head can be cut off, and if you don't reattach it and it goes off and attacks someone on its own, it might grow 2 heads in its place, because that's a thing that can happen. The troll is somehow non-magical for some reason.
For some reason, yeah.
For some reason. I don't know. So now certain creature types are called out as specifically being magical. For example, Fae. I use the example of Fae with like elves. In the monster manual, if you look up in the front of the book, if you look up Fae, it mentions them being magical. Mm-hmm. Others aren't, but certain members of their type are. So like I said, giants aren't specifically called out as being magical, but some of them have innate magic powers. Storm giants and cloud giants do.
Yeah.
Other creature types aren't explicitly called out as magical, but you'd be hard-pressed to find someone who doesn't consider them magical. For example, fiends. Mm-hmm. Nobody's going to say a fiend isn't magical, but there are a lot of fiend creatures that have no special abilities that are in any way magical. A dretch, I'm pretty sure, is like whatever the lowest level of demon is, has nothing magical about it. It's just kind of like a schlubby dude that wanders around and is evil, I guess.
Schlubby dude.
But I would never in a million years say it wasn't magical.
Yeah.
Another one's like hellhounds. Are hellhounds magical? They have a breath weapon. Maybe that's a reason to consider them magical. I don't know. There isn't anything else in their stat block, though, that is a spell-like ability. There's nothing that specifically calls them out as magical. Mm-hmm. Dragon turtles. Everybody, I'm sure, will agree that dragons are magical. Is a dragon turtle magical? It's of the dragon type.
Yeah.
But it's pretty much just a really big underwater, really big, like, scaled turtle.
Yeah. I think they have like a steam breath weapon or something. Like a bubble jet breath weapon or something like that. But that, that you could argue that that's like on the less magical side of breath weapons.
Sure. So just like what I'm trying to establish is that just because something is not specifically called out as being magical doesn't mean it isn't magical. Like the fact that trolls are never referred to as magical creatures is a good piece of evidence. However, it's not the only piece of evidence you need. Absence of evidence does not imply evidence of absence.
Sure, yeah.
It's a saying, that is pretty true. Just because there isn't something that says they're magical doesn't mean that they aren't magical. It's a good start. That's a good place to start an opinion. It's not a good place to end an opinion. Now, here's this one. This part of my argument, I'll admit, is a little bit pedantic. I don't think that this is what Robot Face X meant when they were saying trolls are effectively more... here's a thing. In the ecology of the troll from Dragon Magazine 301, it says they live to be 100 years old.
Oh, sure.
They aren't effectively immortal at all.
Yeah.
But whatever. That's beside the point, I guess.
Yeah, I had thought about that too. I was like, I'm not sure if trolls are immortal. It's just they are they're immortal. They're potentially, and well, they're not indestructible, but I mean, like,
yeah,
through certain means they are indestructible, but like,
yes,
there are ways around their indestructibility.
Yeah. But so I wanted to bring in examples of other trolls because, hey, there's a lot more than just the bog standard troll. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of different types of trolls out there.
Yeah.
Many of which are very clearly magical.
Yeah.
So when you say trolls aren't magical and someone says, well, wait, aren't they? One response that would get me to stop pressing further is to say, well, some of them are, some of them aren't. Okay.
Sure.
I might ask which ones are, but anyway, and again, I went through several editions of D&D for this. In several editions of the game, first edition Fiend Folio and the second edition Monster Manual, there is a spirit troll, which again, depending on and also this one is in Mordenkainen's Tome of Foes, but it's kind of a different creature in my opinion. Mm-hmm. It is either an invisible troll, so a troll that has grown to be just invisible,
yeah,
through some sort of means, or the one in Mordenkainen's Tome of Foes, is a troll that has absorbed psychic energy, and when it regenerated, came back, like it regenerated as a spirit, pretty much. Mordenkainen's Tome of Foes have several different trolls that have taken a certain type of damage and then regenerated and incorporated that damage into their being. Mm-hmm. So this one has taken in psychic energy and has come back as like an incorporeal creature.
Right.
It also has the Rot Troll, which has taken in necrotic damage and come back as like a necrotic creature. The Poison Troll has done the same thing with poison damage. You know, those definitely have a magic component to them. There's got to be some sort of a magic component to an incorporeal troll.
Right.
I mean, come on. So that's a spirit troll. I think the version that's in 1st and 2nd edition is like, it's been like merged with a invisible stalker or something, which is like an elemental creature or something. Okay. In the 2nd edition Monstrous Manual, there's a spectral troll, which is just an undead troll. Dragon Magazine 141 has the Black Troll, which is a demonic troll that can innately cast spells and summon demons. The 2nd edition Monster Manual and 4th edition Monster Manual 2 has the Ice Troll, which is a troll that emanates supernatural cold, per the text. Gotta be something magical for it to create supernatural cold. Mm-hmm. The Blade Rager Troll in the 4th edition Monster Manual 2 explodes in shrapnel when you kill it. That strikes me as being fairly magical. And then the Vine Speaker Troll, also from the 4th edition Monster Manual 2, wields ancient nature magic. So it has a bunch of innate magic spells. Additionally, the 2nd edition Monstrous Manual, when talking about troll society, refers to troll shamans and chieftains having nature magic. No mention of reading a book or whatever. It just talks about them as having this magic. That's arguable, of course. But another thing is that troll blood can be used to make healing potions. Like many of these sources referred to troll blood as being a component in healing potions. That strikes me as being something magical about them. I could be argued down from that, but it's a piece of evidence. Like I said, the ecology of the troll in Dragon 301 refers to trolls believing that they are the direct descendants of their god, Vaprak the Destroyer. Supposedly, again, this other person on Reddit referred to them being referenced in their creation being referenced in Volo's Guide to Monsters, but I didn't see it anywhere. But then also in the ecology of the Ogre Mage in Dragon 349, because again, Ogre Mages are also Giantkin.
Sure.
It says that it's not definitive, but it says the Oni, so like the Ogre Mages, believe trolls to be the offspring of humans that were cursed by their god, Vaprak the Destroyer, and transformed into trolls. So, again, that's lore, but still it's more than nothing. So
right.
I'm not trying to say that any of this last stuff, like the other versions of trolls, that's not definitive evidence, but it is something pointing to the fact that if you are going to make such an enthusiastic statement like, no, they are not magical.
Right.
You might need to at least clarify which trolls you're talking about. Because a lot of trolls are explicitly magical, and then the rest are arguable.
Right.
So, I know I kind of ranted for a while. Hopefully that was a little bit more structured than some of my other rants, but like, if they're not magical, what is magical? What is and isn't magical?
Yeah, where is the line drawn?
Why is a griffin magical or a giant owl magical, but a troll isn't?
Yeah. I don't Yeah, I don't see the reason why to describe trolls as non-magical, even if you don't think they are traditionally magical in like innately magical, as in like they don't have like spells or nothing like that. You can't.
Sure.
Like there is something magical about them. Like I like the example of troll's blood.
Sure.
Like you being used in potions. It's like a potion, a healing potion is magical, mechanically magical. So like if like the main component of a healing potion is the blood of a troll, you like, yeah, you could argue that like the potion maker is imbuing some of their magic or spells or something into the potion and whatever, but I don't know. I just like, yeah, being able to regenerate that quickly, without like the immediate energy to do so, like it's a magical ability. They can regenerate very fast.
Yeah. So I don't know. Hopefully I've made a compelling case. Anybody who might have been on the fence before this, if I changed your mind, let me know. I'd love to hear about it.
Yeah. It's this want to like have things be realistic or something. Yeah. Like it's that realism thing where it's like trying to add realism into the game.
Sure.
So you have like these arguments of like, if I cast a fireball in a closed space, it would damage, it would do so much damage to everybody else in the area, not just in the immediate area or whatever.
Yeah. Like if you do it in a hallway, it should extend further and so on.
Right. That chestnut. So it's like, no, it's just a magic spell. It affects this area. Those are the rules. It's just like, and if you can't compare the rules to real life, you just say, hey, it's magic. Like, what do you want? It's like, stop trying to force realism into a game that has magic spells. You just explain it with magic. Maybe come up with a cool explanation about it. Like,
yeah, if it was that they're not magical, but they are a colony rather than one single organism, I'm on board for that.
Yeah.
Let's explore that in the campaign.
Yeah, exactly. Like that'd be a cool, that'd be a neat idea. Like I like that idea. I think that's really cool. But then you might need to like, change what type they are, I guess. Like maybe they're plant, maybe they're a plant type instead of giant.
I've always thought it was weird that trolls were giants, but I mean, what else would they be, I guess?
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think I've made my case. It's up to you guys to decide.
Right.
If you disagree, make your own podcast. I'll promote it for you.
Yeah. Free promotions.
Yeah.
I don't know. I just think the bad faith arguments are just yeah.
Yeah. All right. I think that'll do it for our regular questions for today. Thank you very much, Robot Face X, for submitting that question. I forgot to mention they also submitted an answer, and the answer was no. Whoops. Sorry. So that was our regular questions for today, but we do still have our social media questions. Our last social media question was, what is your favorite subclass in 5th edition D&D? Do you recall what your answer was, Jeff?
I think I put the Gloomstalker Ranger. One, because like I like Ranger, but Ranger doesn't have a lot of great options in most editions.
Sure.
So like in 5th edition, there's the Gloomstalker Ranger, which is, I think it's a really cool like concept, and then it has some pretty decent abilities, like basically being invisible to anything that's using dark vision to see.
Yeah.
And I think you get that. I think they get that at 3rd level, so it's like, it's easily thwarted.
Yeah.
But it is. There's not many abilities that are like it. Like if something is relying on dark vision to see you, and you're a Gloomstalker Ranger, you are technically invisible to that creature, and I think that's really cool.
Sure.
That, like, you are so good at hunting things in the dark that you have gotten around things like those creatures' abilities to see in the dark, and I think that's really cool.
That's pretty good. I think I said mine was the I think I said the Hexblade Warlock.
Mm-hmm. I think that'd be that's definitely in my top 5, if not my top 3.
Yeah, because it's pretty good. I love Warlock, and then the Hexblade is a really cool interpretation of that.
Yeah.
Over on Facebook, Sean M. says, it's like asking somebody to choose between their favorite Eldritch horror. I'd say that this depends, and I haven't had a chance to play many of the ones I want to play. The much-hated Champion Fighter has been awesome to me. Maybe because he survived quite a bit and is in a game I can really flesh out his personality to be more than a 2-weapon fighting, I attack, bonus attack, action search for attack. I've drawn up several characters based on concepts that I've yet to play, and a few really intrigue me. A Gloomstalker is cool in every way. An Aberrant Mind Sorcerer is the same. I even made a custom subclass based on the thematics of a battle rager, but mixing and matching along with the Path of the Beast and Path of the Zealot Barbarian class features to make a custom Wolverine build I've dubbed Weapon F. Oh, and I can't forget the weird fun that one can have with a Great Old One Warlock. Mine is loosely based on Tim from Monty Python and the Holy Grail, with a little bit of every crazy professor/wizard in each of the different pop culture TV shows and movies. The Too Long Didn't Read is anything reasonably functional with a theme I can work off of. Mm-hmm. So thanks for narrowing it down, I guess. Crit Academy says Conjuration Wizard, better than Batman's utility belt. And that's a lot like what Justin said when he was on the podcast the other day. And then there's actually a new person. I am probably going to mispronounce this. Gokin says Divine Soul Sorcerer.
Ooh, that's a good one.
I'm actually not super familiar with the 5th edition. They get healing spells, right?
They basically get access to the cleric spell list.
Okay. In 3rd edition, they were basically just a sorcerer that did choose from the cleric list.
Right, but they have some they have extra healing abilities. Mm-hmm. I think. And then, they can just they can choose. I think they could choose either or. I'm pretty sure they could just be like, I'm going to pick up a cleric spell this level or whatever.
That's pretty cool. Over on Reddit, Pruno says, I played a wild magic sorcerer and enjoyed manipulating the D20, but the wild magic surge table should really be rolled after casting any spell, not just level spells.
Yes.
If I get another opportunity, I would love to try a reworked Ranger Swarmkeeper and just throw bees everywhere. I do think I'm not a huge fan of the wild magic sorcerer, but I definitely agree that it needs some more consistency, if not in the things that you roll, but the times that you roll. Because as it is right now, it's not going to come up very often, and so much of it is just completely up to the whim of the DM.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And that was we had this experiment on it. We did an experiment on it too, like making it happen more often. But yeah, I agree that the wild magic sorcerer should be it should be more wild, it doesn't need to be more chaotic game breaking.
Sure.
But I feel that the wild magic thing should happen more often. It's the way that it is in the core book. It's just very this might happen every once in a while, and if the DM doesn't want it to happen, they won't.
Sure. Yeah. Arcanist Winterbrand on Reddit says, I love classes that give you extra mobility, and I love that sweet, sweet sneak attack damage. Why not get both in a single class by playing a scout? One of the best ways to play a rogue with range, especially when you consider that capstone ability, Sudden Strike, that lets you do your sneak attack damage twice as long as you target 2 different enemies.
Yeah, Scout.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
Scout is a solid choice for rogue.
Yeah. Alistar the Minotaur says, I guess this is a tough question for me. The power gamer in me is screaming Totem Barbarian. Nothing beats a D12 hit die, advantage on attacks, and resistance to pretty much everything.
Yep.
But I have a soft spot for the Great Old Ones Warlock and with the Pact of the Tome. While it's not the best mechanically, I just love the theming and flavor with the Great Old Ones. Yeah, Great Old One is pretty good. And that's the one that gives you telepathy at will, basically.
Yeah, I think you get that at level 1.
Yeah. Over on Twitter, Jason E was actually not too sure because he's not played very much of 5th edition D&D. So he's got more experience with Pathfinder, but he said, I don't know D&D subclasses, but I'd say my favorite Pathfinder 1 archetype is the Stone Lord Paladin. And in Pathfinder 2, I really like the Outwit Edge for Rangers. Cool. I'm not too familiar with either of those, but it sounds, I know Jay's preferred type of character, and that the names definitely sound like the types of characters he would play.
Yeah, for sure.
And then over on Discord, we've got a few. Potato Plunderer says, I haven't gotten to be a player for much of 5th edition, but I remember my first ever character was a 5th edition Dragon Knight homebrew on the D&D wiki that my DM so graciously converted into a 2e character. I remember a time where one of the party members had their stone golem throw my dragon, who was as big as a cat at the time, across the room in a fiery ball of death that killed all the ads around him. Just having a powerful and maybe overpowered companion at my side really cemented those first moments of gaming in my mind. Playing as Rolf Alistar and Douglas the Dragon was the most fun I've ever had playing D&D. Side note, everyone, Rolf was the character that was featured in a retirement village some time ago.
Oh, cool.
There you go. It's always fun when people share stories that are related to things that like we've already covered on the show that they submitted previously.
I like that.
The Beverage Tea says, I'd like to like the Arcane Archer more, but it just falls short for me. The subclass that I have enjoyed the most is the War Domain Cleric. Sure, it isn't a paladin, but that is just fine with me.
Yeah, the Arcane Archer is a little... 5th edition is a little disappointing. Like, it's cool, but...
Yeah, you might say it misses the mark.
All right.
Dustin says, Cannoneer Alchemist. Biggest gun is best gun. Autumn Wind says, I think I have a favorite subclass for just about every class. Totem Barbarian, Lore Bard, Arcana Cleric, Moon Druid, Shadow Monk, Ancients Paladin, Swashbuckler Rogue, Sorcerer, I'm torn between Divine Soul and Draconic Bloodline, Illusion Wizard. That about covers it. Oh, and I'm not up to date with the latest source book, but Time Magic is wicked OP.
Time Magic? I
think that might be in Tasha's Cauldron of Everything.
Oh, man.
If it has not been obvious, I have not spent very much time reading Tasha's Cauldron of Everything because, as I realized after we recorded our Psionics episode, the Psionics subclasses are in Tasha's.
Oh, geez. Yeah,
I did not realize that at the time, and nobody has called me out on it. So maybe nobody else has read Tasha's either.
Right, yeah. They're all like, oh, wow.
Yeah. Just a couple more. Stiltskin Koopo 84 says, Grave Domain Cleric wrecks pretty hard past 8th level. Mm-hmm. He's playing one in our Roll20 game. Collins B says, Circle of Spores Druid for me. Super weird theming and lets you use your wild shape to do things other than turn into animals, which as someone who hates keeping track of multiple stat blocks when I'm a player is very nice.
Yeah, Circle of Spores is fun. Like, I wouldn't... Like, its main ability isn't, like, super duper powerful. And in fact, like, there was, like, an earlier version of it. Like, before they printed the Ravnica book.
Sure.
There was a playtest version of it that was like pretty, like it was pretty good. Like there was something about it that was like pretty powerful, but I wouldn't say overpowered, but like made it like, oh, this is good. But they changed it. There's some like this, there's like an aura effect basically. They have like this aura of spores that they have around them that can like,
sure.
You can use a reaction to do like some damage, but it's such a small amount of damage for using your reaction when you could instead just do an attack of opportunity or something.
Yeah.
Because I think it's only a like 5 foot or 10 foot range. So they're already like right next to you. You might as well just whack them.
Yeah. FAM says, it's got to be between the Lore Bard and Divine Soul Sorcerer. Both are subclasses that I had a whole lot of fun playing, but it was even more fun when I multi-classed with both. I've only played this character for a few sessions, but it has been a blast and may or may not be a difficult character for my DM to deal with.
That's the trick right there, is you don't pick a favorite, you multi-class.
Sure. And then finally, Peace Joy Pancake says, I don't know about favorites because I haven't really gotten to play that much 5th edition D&D, but I like the Tempest Domain Cleric I get to play in the Patreon game at the moment. And I also really enjoyed the Gloomstalker Ranger I played some years back. Maybe that was because it was my first ever D&D character, but I loved playing it.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, good responses, everybody. Thank you all for writing in. Our next social media question is, what was your first experience with trolls in D&D? Did you know about their regeneration and how did you deal with it? So I'm curious, like, did anybody out there encounter a troll and not know about its regeneration? So they just, killed it and then walked away and then, oh no, it came back and so on. I'm curious if anybody had that sort of a thing or if it was just they already knew or somebody in the group told them or whatever.
Right.
Do you recall your first encounter with a troll?
I can't remember anything specific. I know I must have fought a troll in 2nd edition way, way, way back.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm pretty sure that I had already known about the regeneration thing. Like, it was probably explained to me. Because it's like, when you're getting introduced to D&D, if you're a nerdy person getting introduced to D&D, like the things that are going to draw you in are stuff like that, where it's like, oh yeah, there's trolls, and they can only be killed if you hit them with fire or acid. So you got to use you have to use spells or you have to carry a torch or something. I'm like, ooh, that's cool. So like little details like that get me hooked to stuff. So I'm pretty sure I would have learned that before fighting one. Yeah. So I don't, and because like I like looking at the pictures and going through the books and learning about, like, I like reading monster manuals because I just like ecology of of fictional creatures. I think it's neat.
Sure.
Like I have to fight metagaming just all the time because I know, like, I'm gonna look those things up ahead of time because I like knowing those things. It's just interesting to me. So like I'm gonna I don't mind spoilers so much when it comes to like stories and things, but it's a little bit different in something like D&D where like there is a certain amount of spoilage in that, like, if you already know that something's weak against something, you have to be like, okay, I'm going to sit here and have my character and pretend that my character doesn't know what's going on. And
sure.
Yeah. So like, I didn't have the raw experience of fighting a troll for the first time and going like, oh my God, it's back up.
I think my first time ever fighting a troll was actually not in a tabletop game of D&D, but was in the Curse of the Azure Bonds computer game. Mm-hmm. The first part of the game has you going through a sewer. And I think there's a scripted encounter where you come across what is described as the pieces of a troll. Like someone else has encountered a troll and cut it into pieces. And you have, the options are stay and watch the pieces, mm-hmm. burn them, or just walk away. And if you stay and watch the pieces, it starts an encounter because the trolls, they come back to life and attack you. If you burn them, I don't think you get any experience or anything. It just, you burn it and then you can go on your way. But if you just walk away, then like a certain number of steps later, you'll get into an encounter with trolls because those trolls will have regenerated and then just come running at you.
Yeah.
So I think I might have even like mentioned that to my brother and he was like, oh yeah, trolls, you got to hit them with fire or something.
Yeah. So. And then there was the D&D arcade game when we were playing that.
Oh yeah.
And you fight the trolls, and it was like the troll keeps getting back up.
Uh-huh.
And I think the troll fell down like a couple times, and they were like, "Oh right, it's a troll. We have to hit it with fire." Yeah. And like there's an option to like I think you get like alchemist fire as an item in that game or something.
I think it's just like it's bottles of oil, but yeah, you hit a button, you throw a thing of oil.
Right, and I think like. We figured that out, and then in the time it took us to figure out the controls to get over to the bottle of oil, like there's like a scripted thing in the game. If you take too long killing the trolls, like some knights come in from the side, from like the off screen, and it's like, well, you have to kill it with fire, idiots, and then like
okay,
throw it, and they throw oil on it. But that's after you've like knocked it down like 5 times.
Sure. Yeah, you can watch that, listeners.
You can watch that if you go to YouTube and search FriendQuest.
Yeah, FriendQuest Tower of Doom is probably the one to start with. So
yeah, I think that's right.
Yeah, so that's the social media question. I think I'm hopeful to see what some of our listeners have to say. Maybe somebody had a fun story. If they don't, no worries, but be cool to find out.
Yep.
So that'll do it for our questions for today. So before we close out, let's wind down. Let's sit back. Let's take a deep breath. Let's remember those who have come before us, who have given their lives that we may have a better world to live in, possibly without trolls, as we toss another log onto the pile of burning troll corpses. Today's funeral pyre was submitted by HalfTroll0 via Reddit.
Gabe.
I tried to see if we had any stories that were about trolls, but we didn't. We did have this one. Anyway. This person says, my knight matron rode down a storm giant in single combat after he broke into the city. With her dying breath, as the giant prepared to devour her, her prayer to the god of war was heard, and he infused her with the strength to drive her sword through the enemy's eye.
Ooh.
So yeah, a short story, but definitely a heroic one. Given their lives so that they can stab that storm giant through the eye and save the city.
Yeah.
So let's raise a glass in memory of HalfTroll0's knight matron. As we say, here's looking at you, kid.
Clink.
All right, that'll do it for today. To submit questions for us to discuss, items of the Dragon's Hoard, or stories for the funeral pyre, please email us at interpartyconflict@gmail.com. For show notes, links to media mentioned in the show, and running lists of questions and magic items, go to interpartyconflict.com. Join the discussion on social media. Find us on Facebook. We're on Reddit. We're on our Interparty Discord. And we're on Twitter at InPartyConflict. Check those out for our weekly social media questions. Your answers might end up on the show. Find us on the podcatcher of your choice. We're on iTunes, Google Play Music, Stitcher, YouTube, Spotify, anywhere you download podcasts. Please rate, review, subscribe, or just tell a friend. If you'd like to support the show, check out the rewards at patreon.com/interpartyconflict. We have a few different tiers, so anything you can spare, even $1 a month, would go towards making the show better, and you'll get bonus content for it. Jeff, tell us about FriendQuest.
FriendQuest is a YouTube channel where you can watch us play video games like the D&D arcade game.
There you go. Also, head over to bit.ly/interpartyconflict to take a short survey about our show. What you like, what you don't like, etc. And just for taking it, you'll get 2 free printable board games courtesy of Mary and Tom over at hollandspiel.com. And our music is made by Boxcat Games from Nameless the Hackers RPG. And Jeff, actually, I have a send-off for today.
Oh, yeah?
Everybody out there, don't feed the trolls.
There you go.